Hey there, welcome to the channel. If you're new, my name is Alli, and today I'm going to be sharing with you the curriculum choices I've made for my kindergartner. This is my third kindergartner, and it's such an exciting school year. I just love that kindergarten year where they're excited and it's still new enough that they're excited to do their schoolwork. And it's not quite so routine and hard, that it's a struggle. So I'm really excited for this year. I'm going to start out by sharing our family subjects. I also have a fourth grader, a first grader, and a preschooler. So I just want to start out by saying that if I only had a kindergartner, or that was my oldest child, I probably wouldn't be doing these first things. I wouldn't necessarily recommend these choices. So I'm just going to dive in and explain what I mean. The first thing we're going to do each day is our 24 family ways. I've gone into more in-depth, like flipping through this in my fourth grader curriculum choices. So I'll leave a link to that below if you're interested in seeing that. I think this is a good choice for a family with a range of students. And my son is able to, he's 5, and he is able to engage in the questions. But I would say overall, it's more of a practice of sitting and listening and those kinds of things. It does have a coloring book that goes with it, and I bought that in case his hands need something to do so that he's able to sit and listen while we go over this. After that, we are reading about a chapter a day. And the books in this series, we're currently in Gladys Aylward, which is the first one. And we're just reading our way through it. Again, it's just one chapter a day. And these are Christian heroes then and now. And so this is very much our Bible time, our focusing on who God is and what is truth and what does it look like when people follow him and those kinds of conversations. So that's how we're starting our homeschool day. The next topic will be elementary catechism on the Constitution of the United States. I almost have no expectation of my son really engaging in this topic, and that's perfectly fine. As a family, we're going to be working on the preamble and memorizing it and understanding what it means. My expectation for him during this time really is just that he's there. And it really is more of a practice of self-discipline, and he doesn't have to sit still necessarily. I usually will let him hold, a car or something that he can be doing while he's sitting and listening to conversations that maybe he doesn't really understand. But we try to keep it fairly short. I do want him around the conversation because I have learned over the years from my other 2 kindergartners that it's amazing what kids pick up just by being around conversations. And so I do want him to be in the room and a part of it to the best of his ability, picking up whatever it is that he can. But mostly I just expect him more to be working on his character as far as being disciplined and being able to sit, being respectful of others, not disrupting others, listening, those kinds of things. We're also, as a family, working our way through the Tuttle Twins series. These have very engaging pictures, and it's fun the stories are not terribly long. They're easy to finish in one sitting, easy to understand. It covers some pretty, I think, important topics. So I don't know, again, I'm not going to be giving my kindergartner a test on this, but as a family, it's a conversation that we're having and it's a series that we're working through, and he's just around. He's around to the best of his ability, listening as much as he can and picking up on it. One of the other things that I do with this series is I just go to the library and find people and stories that exemplify that. So, for example, the Tuttle Twins, the second book is The Miraculous Pencil. And so we just found a couple of books about inventors. And these again are very engaging pictures. The stories aren't too long, and they're fun to listen to. He really enjoys listening to it, and it's sort of another way of just exposing to great stories and that kind of thing. With my kindergartner, my focus really is just reading to him as much as possible. And we do a lot of narration after I've finished reading. So as a family, when I've read something, for example, when I read this book to them, I'll go around and I'll just ask them, can you tell me something you remember? And I always start with my kindergartner. I always ask him first, so that it's fresh in his mind and he's not tempted to maybe take somebody else's answer. And then what we do is I just work my way up to my oldest, asking them to fill in things that someone else hasn't already said. And so that works really well. It's a great exercise in him paying attention. And it's really when I learned that he hears a lot more than I would expect him to hear by the fidgeting that he's doing. So it's, he's a 5-year-old boy. He's not wired to sit still for very long. So as long as he's not disrupting others and he can still answer questions and tell me what he's hearing, that's great. That's my expectation for him during these times. The other thing that we do together as a family, the other 2 subjects we do together are science and history. We do not do them back to back after this. I have found, especially my kindergartner and preschooler, once we've finished these 2 morning times, we need a change of scenery. Things need to be different. So we will typically move from those family subjects into individual subjects. The things that he will be working on this year are reading, handwriting, and math at a very basic level. I still want my kindergartners, each one that I've had, to enjoy school. I don't want to take away the magic. I don't want to take away the excitement of doing big kid things and that kind of thing. So I do try really hard to keep the lessons very short and satisfying. I want them to feel like they've accomplished something with them. So he loves math. We are using The Good and the Beautiful Math. We started it over the spring when my son turned 5, and we started it early because he was begging to start school. He went ahead and started his kindergarten year a little early, and that was a great choice. It was a nice time to sort of practice with different curriculums and that sort of thing. So for math, we are using The Good and the Beautiful. I have loved this curriculum. I'm actually switching over my first grader to this curriculum, and I expect that I will switch my 4th grader over once it's available. It has nice, short, satisfying lessons. Each day starts with a daily dose, which really just covers the bases every single day, which is nice because my cats are playing. They've joined me. It's nice because you get that daily repetition of calendar practice and counting using place value. And then there's some little activities down here. This always is a review of what they've learned the day before. Sorry, I'm distracted. And then there's a pretty short lesson. It can be more in depth if you need it to be, but I also feel like if you get the point in fewer sentences, just go for it. This is a tool to use. And so I have found it to be very, very thorough if you're nervous and not sure how to explain something. At the same time, you can it's easy to cut down to the basics of what you need to say. There's usually a worksheet. And then what I really like is there's always a bonus, it's right here, a bonus activity at the end of the lesson, which is a hands-on, either a game or, building different patterns out of blocks or using pattern blocks to make pictures and those kinds of things. And so what we'll usually do after we finish the lesson is we'll set a timer for usually about 10 minutes at the beginning of the year. And the point of this is for him to work independently on something that's engaging and he enjoys it, but it's also to stretch his attention span. So let's say he struggles at 10 minutes. So I may back it up to 8 minutes for a week or so, and then make it 9 minutes and then 10 minutes. And so it really is working on focusing on an activity, engaging in that activity, knowing that there's an end, and sort of lengthening that attention span. It also gives me an opportunity to work with one of his siblings on their lessons that they need me to engage with them on. So it's a nice sort of like a centers type of thing, right? Like somebody's sitting with mom, somebody's working on their independent activity, and then everybody switches. His other independent activity is handwriting, which we're also using the Good and the Beautiful. He has started in the pre-K version in the spring. We're gonna just go ahead and finish that, and then he'll move into the kindergarten probably in the fall. But it's cute. You just, it has all kinds of pictures and coloring, and it's great for really strengthening their little fingers to be able to control the pencil, the stamina of being able to color and control the pencil, really building them up for all of the letters and those kinds of things that come a little bit later. Again, this is an independent activity. I have him sit at the table with me so I can make sure that his pencil grip is correct. This is mostly an independent activity for him, which again is good because he is working on something by himself, accomplishing a task independently, and that also gives me the freedom to be teaching a lesson to someone else during the same time. The other thing that he's working on is reading. He is in the Level K primer, which it's been good. The lessons are real short, and he'll work through this when this is another thing we started in the spring after his birthday. When he's finished with this, he'll just move right into the Good and the Beautiful's Level K, Language Arts and Literature. I've been very satisfied with that with my other two children, and so he'll just follow into it. This has been good for phonics and introductory to reading, just the beginning stages, but he will really be doing this along with the Teach Your Child to Read 100 Easy Lessons. This is how I have taught my other two children to read. I love this book. It feels a little overwhelming when you first open it. It takes some time to get used to the lessons, but I have found that it's a very beneficial techniques. It is just something that has done a very thorough job of really helping not just with the act of reading and decoding words, but also reading comprehension. And so we've just been really happy with the results we've seen from this. So he'll be working with these hand in hand over the summer, sort of getting geared up for the next level of language arts. And he'll just continue to move right along. And I really like to plan, especially my kindergartners years, more like by semesters, just because it is hard to know when they're first starting school, like what are their learning styles and what are they really going to engage in, and those kinds of what's going to be interesting. And not that everything has to be over the top interesting to them, but you do want to sort of play to their strengths, and I want them to be engaged. And so if I have found that if I plan much further ahead than one semester, I end up doing a lot of course correcting, or we end up using something that wasn't a great fit longer than we should have because maybe I bought too much curriculum, too far in advance and those kinds of things. So we're going to be doing this for the summer and then moving along in the spring. The other thing that goes along with that, I feel like, is read alouds. And I just have a bunch of boards really on Pinterest and different book lists that I refer to constantly, and I just see what's available at the library and we get out a few and we read those. So most of my kindergartners' time is spent listening to me read books, which is also how he will be engaging in our two remaining family categories or subjects that we have. We will be, as a family, doing science and history. Our science curriculum for the summer is meteorology. And the way that I pare this down for my kindergartner, this says kindergartner through 8th grade, and I expect he'll be able to do, the topics, and he always gets some things out of this, whatever the lesson is. It's thundering. It's very appropriate for our science unit that we're doing because it's Florida and it's always thundering, it feels like, in the summer. So we're doing meteorology. This curriculum does offer adaptations for younger children and older children. And so really what we do is I start the lesson off by, they have a book list in the front, which will actually give you like an age range for it, like kindergarten to 2nd or 4th through 6th or whatever. So I try to have a few kindergarten to 2nd books that I get from the library on the subject. And this is how we start our science lesson. So everybody sits down, listens to the read aloud together. There's one about seasons, lesson about seasons. So I grabbed this book to go along with that lesson. And this was a recommendation for a kindergartner. And this is how we start the lesson. So if at any point he's no longer able to sit and listen to the rest of the lesson, that's okay. I feel like he really has hit the high spots with these things. It's been on his level. He has been introduced to some information. We've talked about it a little bit, and he can move on. So if he wants to participate in the activities that are with it, great. There's always a copy available for him. He's welcome to pull up a seat at the table and do that. If that's too much for him and he has another activity that he can do that's not disruptive to the lesson, then he's free to do that. We also do the same thing then with history. I take the lesson and I try to find, we're going to be doing Good and the Beautiful's history this year. We're going to be continuing on with that. We did year 1, we started in the spring, and we'll just be continuing on with their 2nd unit moving forward. So we started at kind of an odd time, but we really like it and we're excited to move forward with it. And I do the same thing I do with science. I go through book lists and I try to find books that are relevant to the topic that we're learning about. We start our lesson out by reading the book that I have found for his level, and then he is a part of the lesson to whatever degree he's able to be, and then that's fine. There's this curriculum does offer some printables that can be used for younger kids. So again, I keep the printables available for him if he wants to work on them, but I don't require it. I have found that it's just not worth the fight. Not that there's no benefit to that at all, but he's 5, and so his ability to sit down and do a full length lesson, like even a 1st grader, it's just not the same. So I think that I want him to just listen to books. I try to leverage the reading to be about topics that our whole family are covering, and so then it's something that everybody can sort of benefit from. So that's our plan for our summer semester as we start off our new school year with my kindergartner. And if you have any questions or there's anything else that you want to see more in depth or questions about how it's going to work with all of the kids, then just leave me a comment below and I'd be happy to answer those questions for you. Otherwise, I will see you in the next one. Bye.